Hey everyone, welcome back for another round of Trending Tidbits. So today we're diving into the world of startups, specifically Noah Kagan's book, Million Dollar Weekend. Um, have you heard of this one?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's pretty much like the entrepreneur's quick start guide. He's got this whole philosophy of launching a business in just 48 hours.
48 hours, that's intense.
Right. It's all about speed and action. Kagan argues you can actually go from idea to paying customers over a single weekend.
Wow, okay, I'm intrigued. So where do we even begin with this?
Well, Kagan starts by addressing the two big fears that hold back most aspiring entrepreneurs, the fear of starting and the fear of asking.
Yeah, those are definitely relatable. I think everyone struggles with those at some point.
Absolutely. And to tackle these fears, he offers some pretty counterintuitive strategies, like setting rejection goals.
Rejection goals?
Yeah, basically aiming for a certain number of rejections each week.
Okay, that sounds a little crazy, but I'm curious, how does that work?
Well, it's actually inspired by his dad's approach to sales. His dad was a salesman, and he would aim for 100 rejections a week.
100 rejections?
Yep, the logic being if you're getting that many no's, you're bound to bump into some yeses along the way. It's about reframing rejection as just a necessary part of the process.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. So instead of fearing rejection, you're almost seeking it out.
Exactly. In fact, he even quotes Steve Jobs in the book.
Oh, really? What does he say?
It's something like, most people never pick up the phone, most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. You got to act and you got to be willing to fail.
Hmm. That's a powerful quote. Yeah. So how does this tie into Kagan's now not how philosophy?
Now, not how is all about taking action, even if you don't have all the answers or a perfect plan. It's about getting out there and experimenting.
So instead of getting stuck in analysis paralysis, you just dive in.
Precisely. Kagan believes that you learn by doing and that overthinking can actually hold you back.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's say we've overcome those initial fears. How do we actually go about generating those million-dollar ideas?
Right, so Kagan actually shares a personal story about recognizing the fantasy sports betting trend early on, but ultimately failing because he didn't focus on the customer.
Oh, wow. So even spotting a hot trend doesn't enough.
Exactly. It highlights how vital a customer-centric approach is. You have to solve a real problem for your customers.
Okay, so how do you make sure you're solving the right problem?
Well, this is where things get really interesting, I think, for our listeners. Kagan talks about his own success with AppSumo, which came from solving his own problem of finding software deals.
And that turned into a $100 million business, right?
Exactly. So think about it. What problem do you face regularly? Could there be a business solution hidden within that frustration?
That's a great point. So I guess sometimes the best ideas come from our own personal experiences.
Absolutely. Kagan calls this the customer-first approach, and he outlines this three-step million-dollar weekend process.
Okay, I'm listening. What are the steps? So first you identify a problem. Then you craft a solution.
Yeah.
And finally, you validate that solution with paying customers,
Validate meaning.
proving that people are actually willing to pay for your solution before you invest heavily in developing it.
Oh, so you don't just build something and hope people will buy it.
Nope. Kagan suggests what he calls a 48-hour money challenge,
Which is,
finding 3 paying customers within 48 hours.
wow, so he really puts the emphasis on action.
Right. It's about getting that real-world validation as quickly as possible.
He actually tested this himself with something called sumo jerky, right?
Yeah, he literally sold jerky to people he knew just to prove the concept.
That's amazing. So what are some other ways to validate an idea?
Well, he mentions a few methods, like direct pre-selling, leveraging online marketplaces, or even testing virtual products.
Virtual products.
Yeah, basically like mock-ups or prototypes to gauge interest without actually building the full thing.
Okay, that makes sense. So before we move on, I wanted to touch on this concept of the tidal wave market that Kagan talks about. Ah, yes, that's a crucial element. It's all about finding businesses that have huge growth potential, markets with significant existing demand that are also expanding rapidly.
So like riding a wave that's already gaining momentum.
Exactly. If you can tap into a market that's on the rise, your chances of success increase dramatically.
Okay, so how do you identify these tidal wave markets?
Well, that's a topic for another discussion. But for now, just think about industries that are experiencing significant growth and disruption.
Okay, I'll definitely keep that in mind. So we've talked about overcoming the fear of starting and the fear of asking. We've touched on generating ideas and validating them. What are some of the key takeaways you'd highlight for our listener at this point?
I think it's important to emphasize that Kagan's approach is all about action. It's about getting out of your head and testing your assumptions. It's not about having the perfect plan or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about taking action now and learning as you go.
Yeah, that resonates with me. Don't get bogged down in analysis paralysis. Just take that first step.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do everything alone. Leverage your network, connect with mentors, find people who can support your journey.
That's a great reminder. So before we move on to the next part of our trending tidbits, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Let me think. I guess I'd just reiterate that Kagan's approach isn't just about building a business. It's about building a life that's fulfilling and aligned with your values.
That's a really important point. It's about finding that balance between pursuing your ambitions and living a life that brings you joy.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that's a great segue to the next part of our trending tidbits, where we'll delve deeper into Kagan's insights on personal growth, productivity, and building a life you love. Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into part 2 of our trending tidbits on Million Dollar Weekend. Picking up where we left off, let's talk about Kagan's insights on personal growth and productivity.
Yeah, he actually shares this really interesting story about feeling lost even after achieving financial success.
Really?
Yeah, it's like he had all the outward markers of success but still felt unfulfilled.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Absolutely. Achieving those big milestones doesn't always guarantee happiness.
Right, it's about more than just the money or the achievement.
Exactly. Kagan realized that true happiness came from finding work that was meaningful to him, work that aligned with his passions.
So it's about making sure your business goals are in sync with your personal values.
Precisely. He encourages readers to ask themselves, are you building a business or a life?
That's a powerful question. And I think that's where his dream year concept comes in, right?
Yeah, the dream year is all about envisioning your ideal year. Like, what do you want to experience? How do you want to feel?
So it's about setting intentions and creating a vision for your future.
Exactly. And it's not just about what you want to achieve, but how you want to live.
Okay, so once you have that vision,
Mm-hmm.
how do you translate it into everyday actions?
Well, Kagan is a big believer in systems and routines.
Like having a structured schedule.
Yeah, he's very specific about his own calendaring system.
I'm curious, what's his system like?
Well, he categorizes his tasks, color codes his calendar, and does weekly reviews to stay on track.
Wow, that sounds pretty intense.
It might sound like a lot, but it's really about being intentional with your time.
So instead of letting your day control you, you're controlling your day.
Exactly.
And speaking of staying on track, another thing Kagan emphasizes is having an accountability buddy.
Oh, yeah, accountability is huge. Having someone to share your goals with and keep you motivated can make a big difference.
I totally agree. I've found that having an accountability partner helps me stay focused and committed.
It's about that shared support and encouragement.
Okay, so we've talked about systems, routines, and accountability. What about networking and connecting with influencers?
Ah, yes, that's a crucial part of building a successful business.
But it can also be pretty intimidating, especially when you're starting out.
Right. Kagan actually offers a really interesting strategy here.
Hold with that.
He suggests targeting what he calls pre-influencers.
Pre-influencers.
Yeah, people who are on the rise but haven't quite reached peak success yet.
So they're more accessible and open to collaboration.
Exactly. They're still building their own networks and are more likely to be receptive to connecting with others.
Okay, so how do you approach these pre-influencers in a way that's genuine and mutually beneficial?
Well, Kagan suggests offering value upfront, like showcasing your skills or expertise and being clear about why you're interested in connecting with them specifically.
So it's not just about what they can do for you, but what you can do for them.
Exactly. He gives us a great example of how Andrew Warner, the host of the Mixergy podcast, built his network.
Oh, I love Mixergy. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, so Warner would reach out to influential people early in their careers and offer to help them promote their products or services.
So he was building relationships based on mutual support and growth.
Precisely.
That's a really inspiring example.
Okay, so before we move on, let's recap some of the key takeaways from Million Dollar Weekend so far.
Sure. I think one of the biggest themes has been this action over planning mindset. It's about embracing the and know not how philosophy and getting your ideas out into the world. Right, and it's about prioritizing the customer, validating your ideas, and being willing to experiment.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask, even if you face rejection along the way.
Yeah, rejection is just part of the process.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Build a strong network, find mentors, and embrace the power of community.
Great points. So what's specifically can our listener take away from this part of our Trending Tidbits discussion?
Well, I'd say start by reflecting on those deeper questions about aligning your business goals with your personal values.
Think about your dream year and how you can structure your life to make those aspirations a reality.
And find an accountability partner, someone who will support your journey and help you stay on track.
It's about building a life you love, not just a successful business.
Now for the final part of our Trending Tidbits exploration, we'll be diving into Kagan's insights on social media and email marketing.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear about that.
He's got some really unconventional strategies for building an audience, driving growth, and generating profit.
Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our Trending Tidbits on Million Dollar Weekend. Now we're getting into social media and email marketing. It's like the bread and butter of online business these days.
Absolutely. And Kagan has some pretty specific views on how to use them effectively.
Okay, so let's start with social media. What's his take on that?
Well, he sees social media primarily as an engine for growth, for building an audience and getting your name out there.
Okay, so not necessarily for direct sales.
Right. He believes that email is actually better suited for that.
Interesting. So social media is more about building that initial awareness and connection.
Exactly. And he talks about this concept of building a content circle on social media.
A content circle.
Yeah, think of it as having like 3 circles of influence.
Okay, I'll listen.
So at the core, you have your core circle. These are your most passionate fans, the ones who are most likely to become loyal customers.
So you tailor your content specifically to them.
Right. You might share more exclusive insights or behind-the-scenes stuff with your core circle.
Okay, and then what about the other circles?
So beyond the core circle, you have the medium circle. These are folks who are interested in your niche, but maybe not as deeply engaged.
So you'd probably share more educational content or tips with them.
Exactly. And then finally, you have the outer circle, the large circle. This is where you cast a wider net and introduce your brand to a broader audience.
So it's about understanding those different levels of engagement and providing value that resonates with each group.
Yeah, that's the key. And throughout all of this, Kagan emphasizes the importance of consistency.
Like showing up regularly and providing valuable content.
Right. And he also talks about being a guide, not a guru.
What does he mean by that?
It's about being authentic and relatable on social media, sharing your journey, including the struggles.
So not trying to present this perfect image.
Exactly. People connect with realness. Nobody wants to follow a perfectly curated feed that feels fake.
That's good advice. Okay, once you've built that social media audience, how do you make the most of email marketing?
Right. So this is where Kagan sees the real profit driver.
Because
you own your email list. Algorithms can change on social media, but your email list is yours.
right, you have direct access to those subscribers.
Exactly. And he tells this great story about how a well-crafted email from his friend Neville Medhora led to like 100-fold increase in revenue for AppSumo.
Wow, 100-fold.
Yeah, it was a game changer for them.
So what made that email so effective?
Well, it wasn't just a sales pitch. It told a story, had humor, and connected with readers on a personal level.
So it was engaging and relatable.
Exactly. And that's what resonates with people.
So email should be about building those relationships,
Right.
providing value, and then strategically weaving in offers.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on this concept of the Law of 100 that Kagan talks about.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Can you remind us what that is?
It's basically about committing to taking a specific action 100 times regardless of the initial results.
So like writing 100 blog posts or making 100 sales calls.
Exactly. The key is consistency.
So you're shifting your focus from the outcome to the process.
Right. It's about trusting that if you keep showing up and putting in the work, the results will eventually follow.
It's a way to build momentum and break down big goals into smaller steps.
Precisely.
So as we wrap up our trending tidbits from Million Dollar Weekend,
Me.
what are some of the key takeaways you'd like our listeners to walk away with?
Well, I'd say first and foremost, embrace action. Don't let fear hold you back. Get out there and test your ideas in the real world.
Yeah, action is key.
Focus on solving real problems for your customers. And remember, you don't have to do everything alone. Build a strong network, find mentors, and connect with other entrepreneurs.
Great advice.
Think about your dream year and take those steps to create a life you truly love. Not just a successful business, but a fulfilling life.
I love that.
Use social media strategically to build your audience and connect with potential customers. And leverage the power of email marketing to nurture those relationships and turn them into profit.
And of course, remember the Law of 100 and commit to consistent action even when things get tough.
Absolutely. And above all, believe in yourself and your ability to achieve your goals. Entrepreneurship is a challenging but incredibly rewarding journey.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Noah Kagan's $1 Million Weekend. We've covered a lot of ground today, but hopefully you've gleaned some valuable insights that you can apply to your own entrepreneurial endeavors.
And remember, this is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep pursuing your dreams with passion and determination.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on what resonated with you most from our trending tidbits. Share your insights, your experiences, and your own entrepreneurial aspirations with us in the comments below. Until next time, keep diving deep into the world of knowledge and ideas